only mode.
Hello everyone, this is Doug Erb with Landshore, and today we'll be going over supporting your sales team to close bigger deals. The agenda for today is we will be discussing the benefits of CPQ, what you can see and use CPQ for, understanding sales velocity, which is an equation that many of us use to look at how deals go from inception to close. I'll be passing it over to Leighton, my colleague, who will be discussing large deal challenges, and then actually give you some real recommendations in a real CPQ software in real time. First of all, my name is Doug Erb, and I actually am the partner and founder of Landshore. Leighton?
Hi, I'm Leighton. I work in the CPQ practice as the lead, and I work with customers to implement their CPQ solutions.
And more specifically, I work with Leighton to make sure our customers are happy with what they've implemented and the solutions that they've selected. An overview of Landshore is an organization that works with sales performance management. We're a global organization with offices in San Jose, Costa Rica, London, and Houston. We resell sales performance management software solutions such as CPQ, and because of our knowledge of the systems and our independence, we implement these systems for multiple types of organizations. So let's dive right into what we're talking about, which is the benefits of CPQ. A lot of times I like to look at these things and understand what the hard dollar ROI savings are. What are those things that the finance people are looking for when you come to them and say, I want to implement this system, or we're using CPQ and they're looking for a justification. More specifically, if you look at, I've got highlighted in bold here some of the CPQ benefits. Accuracy of data, which has to do with the configurator, and reductions in proposals has a direct correlation to cost savings because you reduce the amount of returns and errors in shipping directly affecting your bottom line. And that's also in quote error reduction. So reducing quote error reduction will reduce the amount you have to discount and any issues that you have with the customers from errors in quote and pricing. On the other side of that, and we'll see this here in our sales velocity equation, you actually have faster sales cycles and really control over discounting with better collaboration for the customer and making the customer experience wholly better. So when you look at CPQ benefits, you have two sides. You have cost savings, but you also have revenue enhancement. And the revenue enhancement part of it is really what you're looking at when you have greater collaboration and margin protection, along with what we really don't have in here is the ability to upsell the customer into newer and different items based on tangential things that they may be looking for as part of CPQ. So let's look at that sales velocity equation and why it matters, specifically as it pertains to CPQ. For those of you who don't know, sales velocity is the time it takes for a lead to go from lead to closed deal. And there are different parts of CPQ, right? When we look at this, when we look at the sales velocity equation, there are different parts that CPQ will affect. But what it doesn't affect, for example, is the levers of number of deals. CPQ has nothing to do with that. And win rate, it can participate in win rate, but effectively your product and your ability to close the deal has a greater significance to win rate. One of the things that you do typically notice is that people focus on number of deals and really don't look at sales cycle and average dollars to increase the revenue line. They look at how many deals can we get in the door to increase the revenue line. CPQ, as if you go ahead and forward to the next slide, CPQ can take you from looking at just number of deals and actually concentrating on average dollars per sales, but per deal, by automating the upsize and upsell, and also by shortening the length of the sales cycle. So traditional ROI in CPQ is found in the reduction of errors and shortening of sales cycle, but you can also upsize and increase your revenue by automating workflow sales process by increasing deal size and the ability to control the deal, which is significantly important when it comes to sales velocity and really why you would want to use CPQ. So I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Leighton so he can go through some of these, some of the other tangential things around CPQ, and more specifically what the challenges of large deals are and some of the problems caused by these challenges. Leighton?
Thanks, Doug. As Doug mentioned, I will be taking us through some of the challenges encountered in working on large deals and trying to close them. A few of the things that become very obvious very quickly when dealing with larger deals, especially those that come through a tender process, is that the number of items that need to be involved in those deals tends to be a much larger number. So if it's a sizable deal for a customer who probably has multiple sites, multiple locations, either locally or globally, for a large deal they usually need more moving parts, more components, and that adds complexity to how the quote or the proposal is put together. In line with that also is that there will be multiple product and commercial iterations to get a winning quote. And this is in cases where the customer will start with asking that something be quoted with some options to see should they get a 3-year warranty, should they get this type of equipment or that type of equipment instead. And in dealing with your sales rep, they will be feeding that information into them and making some decisions on the fly as that interaction continues. It may be more structured where they ask for some options to be priced in, and then at later points they drop certain options off. And with the mix of the products they're asking for example, they may ask that you quote just products, or to quote products and support services, or quote products, support services, and extended warranty. The mix they select will also affect what commercial offers you're giving them in terms of discounts, in terms of add-ons that you're throwing into the deal. So as that information comes in, that iteration leads to some complexity that may be a challenge in closing those larger deals. To get the right offering, it's also quite likely that you need to involve a lot of departments. With the example I highlighted earlier, if it's a case where the customer has asked that you price in the product and some support services and some warranty, you may need to reach out to your support team within your organization to understand how do we deliver support services, what should the costing be, or you may need to work with the fulfillment team to say, okay, the customer are buying certain equipment, it's of this size, it needs to be delivered to the 10th floor of a multi-story building, and it can't go through the lift, it can't go through the service elevator. How do we get it in there? What's the costing? So there will be moving parts, there will be other departments that need to feed in information. Another likely option is one where the customer may be looking for a prime contractor to handle everything to do with their bid. In line with that, they may want you as the prime contractor to provide services that may not be available internally. You may have existing partners, or you may need to go to market to find some partners who can deliver some of those additional products and services. So these things come together to form some of the challenges, some of the typical challenges that occur when trying to close a larger deal. In more specific terms, those general challenges can then lead to operational issues, like one of dependent components and services being missed. So imagine a scenario with a sales rep who has been talking to the customer, they've given them information, they've come back, they've quoted what they believe is right. But there are cases where perhaps there are business rules, for example, in the hardware space, where if you have more than a particular number of equipment, the communication between them needs special software, which needs special licensing, which needs to be added to the deal. It could happen that a salesperson doesn't have that insight. They don't have that technical knowledge to be able to do it. Missing something like that could be expensive, could mean a lower margin, could mean erosion of profitability on the deal if it's not caught early enough. So things like that are where CPQ starts to come in to try and help avoid such omissions. As we mentioned, with the larger deals, it could happen that you need to work with multiple departments. And for most organizations who haven't adopted CPQs yet, these tend to be a salesperson sitting at their desk and on an Excel spreadsheet, putting together the proposal, jumping on the phone to call someone in the department, walking over to the desk of one of their colleagues to get input into what they're doing, or exchanging emails. What may happen there is some of that information may be lost. Some of that information may not be tracked. All the factors they've been given may not be factored into the quote that is being put together. What the CPQ allows is a platform where all those different users can be in the same system. The salesperson can enter what they know and request assistance from the different departments, who can log in and provide their feedback, or as some customers do, they let the sales rep do what they need to do and then pass it on to be approved by the different other departments. This next point is always a challenge with large deals in particular, the time constraints on the sales rep. For large deals with RFPs, with formal tender processes, the customers have their timelines that they would have defined. And it's not uncommon to see further additions and amendments being sent to all the parties who are participating in answering that tender. It may be someone asked a question that clarified something, or a decision was made off the back of discussions that now means that the nature of the proposition being made has to be changed. If this comes a week to the end of, till the close date, till the submission date, that could be a bit of pressure. Yes, your salesperson can ask for more time, but if your competition are not asking for more time, it could be the difference between winning and losing the deal. So what CPQ does is to give the opportunity to allow for that quick change to your proposal, that quick addition, quick subtraction, so that you can respond very quickly to changes that come from the customer. In line with this also, the sales reps, any good sales rep, usually in engaging the customer, has an idea of what the win price is for the customer, or at least the range. In knowing this, they try to put together a package that can satisfy the customer needs and fall within the range of price that they believe that the customer has budget for. What this often does is to put pressure on the salesperson in the bid to win the deal to heavily discount at times so that they can close the deal. This might particularly happen where the rep's compensation perhaps is not aligned strictly with their discounting, and there's no correlation between their compensation and that. One thing that the CPQ does and does well is to help you put a system around it to check what level of discounts the salespeople can give for what products or what services, and also give the opportunity for the salesperson to request discounts, so they can't just propose a discount without having had it signed off internally within the organization. What I will do next is to take us through a quick walkthrough of a typical CPQ environment, a typical use of the CPQ, and how the CPQ can help you handle some of those challenges and drive up that sales velocity, the dollar value, and the time to deliver your proposals. So this is a typical CPQ environment. It's one that is a catalog-based one, where there are different products, different offerings as may be needed by your organization to represent your product and service set. For this demonstration, what I will do is present a scenario of a new company moving into a new building. They need some telephony services delivered at the building and some computer equipment. And they've come to us as a vendor to say, provide us a quote for those services. In that instance, what we will do is we will, for example, go into our telecoms offering. There are a few options, but we will select the voice switches in line with the customer's requirement. Now, this is a typical configuration screen. It presents options that the salesperson can select and provide some guidance to the salesperson to ensure they choose the right items. What I will do is to walk us through and then talk through some of the options available. So imagine our customer wants a mix of the desk and mobile offerings, and at the same time they've told us that they want the offerings to be for up to 300 people. So we make some choices, and as we're making the choices, we're dynamically building our quote. The one thing I will mention is if I make no selection there, it will be on the next one. So now that we know that we need about 300 people, I will show something that we have a few options of switches. Automatically, by selecting that we want 300 people, as the options of switches have reduced. If I were to go back to 51 to 100, we then see that we're presented two options now. Both options can support 100, up to 100 connections, up to 100 communicator licenses. But if we go to 300, which is the range we're looking at, we remove one of the options. And this is good in terms of helping the salesperson present the most suitable option to the customer. So we don't price something that will not be able to support them, and then the organization have to absorb the costs of delivering the solution once the contracts are signed. So in that, we're guiding the salesperson. And again, now that we've selected the number of communication licenses, we can select the length of contract. And one thing you'll notice straight away is this pop-up on the screen. It is highlighting to the salesperson that there is special incentive for them to sell the 5-year deal. And what this allows the salesperson to know is, or encourages them to go back to the customer and try and upsell them to the 5-year deal so that they can increase their own compensation and ultimately improve revenue to the company. Another thing I will highlight is this value here that just says incomplete. As a salesperson is going through their configuration, what the system is doing is tracking all the fields, all the components that we need to have to ensure that our selections are complete and deliverable. So in this instance, it's highlighting that there's something that we haven't selected that is key to ensuring that this solution can be delivered. And that's what's shown in red. So if I go ahead to then select one of those options, I'm told that my deal is complete, which means it can be delivered. So it's whole. There are other options, but everything that is required for the delivery has been added to the package. Again, we see that there's another pop-up to talk of the incentivization. So not only is the salesperson incentivized on the length of contract, they are also incentivized based on the support that they sell. These are parts of the ways we encourage the salesperson to increase the dollar value of the deal. This is part of how we drive that increased sales velocity to return higher values to the organization. Now that we have a complete configuration, we can then add this to what is effectively our basket, our cart, to drive the process of creating a proposal for the customer. I will not go in detail into this at the moment because, as I mentioned, our scenario is such that the customer has requested both telephony and hardware to be provided to them at their new offices. So what I will do is add the hardware, and as well as selecting and driving and drilling down through the categories, we can actually search for products and specific items. In this case, some high-tech hardware, and we will configure some laptops. So as before, we have a very simple screen with some options, and the salesperson will be guided through making the selections. Part of the power of the CPQ is this. If I select an option, for example, the i7, one of the i7 processors, I'll just switch back to show you that again. When it's i5, you can see I have 3 options presented to me. But once I go to i7, some of the options are removed, and also I am given a warning as to why that is, showing that certain options are not available for certain processors. If I selected another one, in this instance, only one option is available. I am being informed of that as well, and the one option available is being selected. So these are parts of the ways to ensure that what the salesperson puts together is consistent with the technical rules that you have in the organization, what is technically deliverable, as well as driving forward the commercial aspects of the deal as well. So to continue our configuration, if I then select one of the hard drives, what we see now is some more options have been presented. This is another good feature of the CPQ, where we can we can group the items to make sure that the screen is not too cluttered. We make the salesperson focus on the key information first, and after they've given us that information, we can then present more information and more information. In this case, I will just make a few selections. So as you can see, we have our options being reflected here in our responder, and our deal is complete. So in theory, we can go forward and add that to our cart and propose this, but there are a few things still available. We can sell additional things, peripherals, so printers, monitors, and the likes. In this instance, we won't. But here, there is a tab for upsell. The first upsell we did see was driven by incentivizing the salesperson. But in this particular one, we are looking at a way to help the salesperson to present other options. Though they don't have any incentive here, in this case, we have some customer incentives, but none to the salesperson themselves. So in talking to them, if they suggest, okay, I do want to upgrade, we present more options. They can select one of those options. And here we see we've also provided incentive for the customer. If they select it, we are giving them a 35%, up to a 35% discount. So in selecting that, they may then wish to select one or multiple items. And that way we're building our quote, we're ensuring it's consistent, and we are also driving higher dollar values by presenting options and trying to close with upsells as part of our deal. I will now add this to our proposal, and we'll go on to review the proposal a bit more. So now we've selected our items, we've added them to the cart, we have our items all configured. So we have our telephony services, we have the hardware as well, all there. So a few things I will highlight now are these. So we see that there are areas for discounts here. One thing I'll talk about is the margin health. This gives a quick snapshot to the salesperson of, based on the range determined internally within the organization, how healthy is this deal? How profitable is this deal to us? As I mentioned, the salesperson probably has a figure in their mind, where a price at which they think we can win this deal. So what this allows them to do is to adjust some of the discounts, so to try and get to a price that will constitute a win price for the organization. So after adjusting that, what I can do is to save that. And the one thing you'll notice is automatically those values I've entered have now been reflected with different discount rates on the different products. One thing I will do is, for example, I may decide I want to give a much higher discount here, so perhaps I want to give 50%. You will notice that as I enter 50%, it's showing in red. And when I highlight it, it's telling me I've gone beyond the discount I am allowed. This presents me with a few options. One is to say, okay, this truly is the discount I want. I believe there's commercial justification for this. Perhaps if we win this deal with this discount, in future, we can get more sell-on deals. They have budget for later phases. If that's the case, then what I can do is to scroll down. And one thing we see here is it's telling me why that's been flagged as red. I have exceeded the discount that's been set for me. I need to send it to an approver to validate this and sign off before I can propose this to the end customer. Should I choose to do that, what I will do is to click on request approval, and then I can submit this to an approver internally who has the ability to sign this off. And once they sign it off, I can then send that to my customer. In this instance, we won't do that. I'll show you the other options available to the salesperson. What the salesperson can then do is to say, okay, perhaps I can win by not giving them that specific discount on that particular item, but if I know win price, perhaps what I do is I target that win price, and I say, okay, what price do I think I need to get to them? So if I then change it and say, perhaps I want this to be around 35,000. What will happen is that the system will take the price I've entered and try to allocate the discount across the different products based on the limits I'm permitted. So automatically I've managed to reach my win price without giving an excess discount on any of the lines. I'm within the range. And while I'm there, it's still showing the health of each of the lines. So perhaps if I think, okay, that the margin on that isn't so good, what I will do is I will reduce the discount I give on that to 10% or perhaps 12, just over 12%, and then I will increase this to 5%. So I have the opportunity to tweak the different discounts I give. So if I see that the health is still not good enough, I can change that to 10 and then say, okay, this is still low, I can give 5% discount on that one. And you can see now I have a deal still within my win price, still with all the margins being healthy, and without having exceeded any of the discounts I'm permitted in the organization. I've had the opportunity to upsell through the different features that existed within the configuration itself. And in addition to that, I'm also presented here an option for a special offer that is here, which I can click. The customer qualifies for it. Do I think I can sell this to the customer as well? If there's a requirement for it, then I can apply it and get even a higher value deal. If not, then I don't apply it. So here are some of the ways in which the CPQ takes all those principles, takes all those concepts, brings them together to ensure that you're protecting your margin, making sure that the right things are being quoted, ensuring quote accuracy, ensuring the deliverability of what is quoted, and maintaining profitability. That's what I was hoping to show now. I will hand over to Doug to share more thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And for anybody who has questions going forward around CPQ, you can feel free to contact me. Here's my contact information. I'll also be able to provide Olayton's contact information. Thank you all for joining this this webinar, and looking forward to hearing from you.